Ever ask yourself why your lady is acting up? Ever think it might be your damn fault, king? Now let's take a step back and think about this for a moment. Yeah, I know it's easier to blame her for everything, right? But have you ever stopped to consider that maybe, just maybe, you're part of the problem too? Let me tell you a story about a buddy of mine. We'll call him Joe. Now, Joe, he was a real piece of work. He had a string of relationships that were as rocky as a mountain trail. And every single time he blamed his girlfriend, it was always her fault. She was too clingy, she was too distant, she didn't understand him. You name it, he blamed it on her. But the funny thing was, he never once looked at his own actions. Here's the deal, fellas. If you're always jumping from one relationship to another, blaming each failure on the woman, it's time to turn that mirror around. It's time to look at yourself. Because the common denominator in all those relationships, it's you, king. Accountability, my friends, is a crucial part of any relationship. It's not always about pointing fingers. Sometimes you gotta point that finger back at yourself. You gotta ask, am I contributing to the problem? Am I the one who's actually messing up? It's a tough pill to swallow, but sometimes it's the medicine you need. So back to Joe. He was in a cycle, always blaming his ladies, never looking at his own mess. And guess what? He's still stuck in that cycle, still blaming, still not taking responsibility. Don't be like Joe, fellas. Take a good hard look at yourself before you start blaming her, because sometimes the problem isn't her, it's you. So my buddy was in a cycle, always blaming his ladies, never looking at his own mess. Don't let that be your story, king. Look at yourself first, because remember, you get what you tolerate. And if you're always tolerating your own mess, well, you're gonna keep getting it. Now let me tell you, fellas, you get what you tolerate. You see, life in its infinite wisdom has a funny way of serving us exactly what we're willing to put up with, like a sly bartender who knows your poison. Take a moment and think about it. Who's that person you know who always seems to find themselves in a whirlwind of drama? I bet you $1 to a donut they're the same person who tolerates, maybe even invites, that chaos into their life. Let's take Jimmy, for example. Good old Jimmy. Jimmy's always complaining about his tumultuous love life. It's like a never-ending episode of The Young and the Restless with him. But here's the kicker. Jimmy's got a thing for drama queens. He's drawn to them like a moth to a flame, and then acts surprised when he gets burned. Sure, we could sit around blaming the women in his life, but let's be real here. The common denominator in all of Jimmy's failed relationships? That's right, it's Jimmy. It's like that old saying, if you run into an asshole in the morning, you ran into an asshole. If you run into assholes all day, you're the asshole. So fellas, it's time to take a good hard look in the mirror. Are you a Jimmy? Are you inviting and tolerating the kind of drama you claim to despise? It's easy to point fingers and play the blame game, but at the end of the day, we're the ones making the choices in our lives. It's time to stop blaming her or him or them and start taking some damn responsibility for the part you play in your own life. Raise your standards, set some boundaries, and watch how quickly the drama dissipates. So if you're always attracting drama, maybe you're the soap opera. Now here's the damn truth. It ain't her, it's you. And you're probably thinking, whoa, hold up, me? Nah, it can't be. But stick with me for a minute, fellas. I'm about to share a real gut puncher. I remember back in the day I was dating this girl. She was smart, beautiful, the whole package, but things just weren't clicking. I was constantly blaming her for everything that went wrong. Why can't you do this? Why don't you do that? It was always her fault. At least, that's how I saw it. But then one day, my best friend, he pulled me aside. He looked me dead in the eyes and said, well, bro, it ain't her, it's you. I was taken aback. Me? How could it be me? I was the perfect boyfriend. Or so I thought. That's when I realized I was the one with unrealistic expectations. I wanted her to be perfect, to fit into this little box I had created in my mind. But that wasn't fair to her. She wasn't a doll. She was a human being with her own thoughts, feelings, dreams, and flaws. I was the one who was constantly criticizing, never appreciating. I was the one who was always taking, never giving. I was the one who was always demanding, never understanding. I was the one who was always blaming, never accepting. And when I finally faced this harsh reality, it was like a slap in the face, and I realized that I was the problem. I was the one who was tearing us apart. It wasn't her, it was me. I had to take a long, hard look in the mirror and accept the fact that I was the one who needed to change, that I had to stop blaming her and start taking responsibility for my own actions, my own shortcomings. It was a tough pill to swallow, but it was the truth. And the truth, as they say, can set you free. It was a wake-up call, a reality check. It made me realize that if I wanted to have a healthy, fulfilling relationship, I needed to change my ways, my attitude, my mindset. So I had to face it. I was the problem, not her. So you know the problem is you, now what? Time for some change, King. Now don't get me wrong, I ain't saying it's gonna be a walk in the park. Change is tough, and it's even tougher when you're the one in the driver's seat. But let me tell you something, fellas, ain't nothing worth having ever came easy. So where do we start? Well, first off, you gotta be honest with yourself. No more of that, "Oh, it ain't my fault" nonsense. You gotta own up to your mistakes, and trust me, we all make them. Remember that time I bought a goldfish and named it Invincible? Yeah, didn't quite live up to its name, did it? Point is, we all mess up. The real test is what we do after. Second, start small. You ain't gonna change overnight, and that's okay. Remember, Rome wasn't built in a day, and neither was Brooklyn. Start with the little things. Maybe stop blaming your girl for not understanding you, and start working on expressing yourself better. Third, you gotta get comfortable with being uncomfortable. Change ain't easy. It's like trying to do a handstand for the first time. You're gonna fall flat on your face a few times, but you keep pushing, and one day, you're standing on your hands like it's nothing. Lastly, surround yourself with positivity. You know that saying, "You are the company you keep"? Well, it's true. Surround yourself with people who uplift you, who challenge you, who make you want to be a better man. And remember, fellas, this ain't just about your relationships. This is about you, about becoming the best version of yourself. Because at the end of the day, the only person you should be trying to be better than is the person you were yesterday. So I started working on me, and damn, things started to change. And trust me, fellas, when you start to change, everything around you changes. So let's stop with the blame game and let's start the change game. All right, so we've been through some harsh truths today, but it's all in love, King. I ain't here to sugarcoat things or to stroke your ego. I'm here to tell it like it is, no chaser. We've talked about the blame game, the mirror effect, the damn truth, and the change game. And I hope you've been taking notes, because class ain't over yet. In the blame game, we learned that pointing fingers ain't gonna solve anything. If your lady's acting up, the first person you gotta look at is the man in the mirror. That's you, King. That's the mirror effect. You gotta take responsibility for your part in the drama. Ain't nobody else gonna do it for you. We got real with the damn truth. The truth is, sometimes we're our own worst enemies. We tolerate behavior that we shouldn't, and then we get mad when it keeps happening. But whose fault is that? It ain't hers. It's yours, King. You get what you tolerate. The change game is all about making moves. If you don't like what's happening, then do something about it. Don't sit around complaining, expecting things to change on their own. That ain't how life works. You gotta put in the work if you want to see results. Change starts with you. So here's the final word, King. You can't control other people, but you can control how you react to them. You can't change other people, but you can change yourself. You can't blame other people for your problems, but you can take responsibility for them. So next time your lady is acting up, don't blame her, blame your damn self. And remember, you get what you tolerate, fellas. If you like this real talk, go ahead and smash that like button. Share this video and check out the other videos on this page. Peace.